Hey Exoticals, welcome back to the social climbing series. So I recently did a video on the Afro-Latina obsession, and today I want to talk about the obsession with Creoles. There is an obsession with the Creole culture as well as the Creole phenotypes. And so I wanted to go over a list of reasons of why some people are particularly jealous of Creoles. Number one is generational pretty privilege. So a lot of people talk shit about Creoles. They like to stereotype Creoles in particular as being colorist, texturist, and featurist. And sometimes I'll hear unambiguous women say things like, oh, well, my Creole great grandma, she didn't understand what it was like to be me. And it's like, well, that doesn't make someone colorist. Just because somebody doesn't have the same trauma as you, that does not make them colorist. So I think that Creoles, they had a culture historically of being privileged. And even if you look at a lot of Creoles today, a lot of Creoles are pretty privileged as well. Like, I have never met an ugly Creole. I've never met somebody Creole who's ugly. And I think I am biased because I love Creoles so much. A lot of my closest friends are Creole women. I have never had a hater who is a Creole woman. And I think that some people get upset because they see that a lot of Creole women are generationally pretty privileged. So, you know how I talk about femcel mothers on this channel? I talk about like jealous, toxic mothers and how they will mistreat their own children. I think that if you're a Creole woman and maybe you have a Creole mother and a Creole father, there is a stronger sense of relatability because you guys already have similar phenotypes, similar privileges. You're benefiting from similar isms. And whenever I hear people talk about their parents being colorist, texturist, or featurist, I've noticed that oftentimes they'll call them a colorist and their mother is just light skinned. And it's like, okay, just because someone's lighter than you doesn't automatically make them colorist. But I think that when it comes to Creoles, a part of the advantage is you have children or siblings that all have a similar phenotype. So you don't have to worry as much about, the black sheep of the family. And by the way, you know how they say that like a lot of light skinned women get told by their family members that other women are jealous of them? I've noticed that a lot of people, they tend to be targeting Creoles when they talk about that. They tend to be targeting Creoles with having these talking points of, oh, people are jealous of you. Okay, but that's actually not a bad thing, though. That tells me that as a culture, they have more self esteem and confidence, and they're teaching their children to stay away from jealous people. That is not a bad thing. So if that's a cultural advantage that Creoles have, knowing that people are jealous of them or knowing that people will hate on them or knowing that people wish they had their phenotype, if that's a cultural advantage of Creoles, why would you be mad at that? That's just a part of their privilege then. And by the way, that leads me to number two, social climbers. Creoles historically have been very good at social climbing. Say what you want about their methods, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, the Creoles are the ones who, they enforced things like the paper bag test, or they were a part of like the Black Boule, and they were very classist. Name one country, name one race, name one ethnicity that has never been accused of colorism, texturism, featurism, or classism. Name one. I'll wait. So it's hilarious how they have no energy, no smoke for white people, but you got all the smoke for Creoles. And that's how I know that a part of it is definitely based in jealousy. But Creoles, they tend to be very good at social climbing. If you look at their history, also a lot of the biggest icons in the Black community are Creole. We already know the main one, the Queen, Beyonce. Beyonce recently got canceled for not speaking to nobody and walking past Brandy. So that's another thing. There's like this stuck up stereotype that people have against Creoles, but that's not a bad thing. That's actually a privilege. If you are known for being stuck up, that's good, because guess what? Women who are stuck up, they have boundaries. Women who are stuck up have very high standards. So anytime somebody calls you stuck up, what they're really saying is, oh, you're on your high horse, you're on a pedestal. So they're literally admitting that Creoles are on a pedestal. Okay, I think I'm on number three. I think Creoles have actually done a good job at maintaining a sense of cultural pride. I hear a lot of monocultural black people trying to say that, oh, if you're Creole, you're just black. Oh, it's the same as being black American. Well, no, it's not, because the Creoles themselves are still claiming being Creole. So you don't get to tell people of a different culture that they can't claim their culture. So I think that that's actually another advantage. A lot of Creoles actually have pride in their heritage. And I think that a lot of people are jealous of that. They're jealous of the cultural pride that Creoles still have. If you think about the Creole community, it kind of reminds me of the Native American community, where it's like you don't have as many people who are full blooded anymore. You've got a lot of like intermixing and stuff like that. But the fact that people are still going out of their way to claim that heritage, that tells me that they still have pride in where they came from. So I think that's another reason some people get pissed off at Creoles. They're mad because you're proud to be a Creole. And so then they try to accuse you of escaping your blackness. Well, the word Creole itself literally means that you are not monoracially black. And by the way, one of the other ways that I know people want to be Creole is going out of their way to say things like, oh, but you know there are dark skinned Creoles, right? Oh, but you know there are just black passing Creoles, right? It's like, okay, the Creoles themselves are not trying to exclude you if you're like not white passing. So the fact that you've got monoracial black people who are not Creole trying to argue back and forth about what Creole is, that is a form of pedestalization. So I think a part of the jealousy, it comes from the pedestalization because you're adjacent to Black American culture, but at the same time, you're also different. So you're admitting that you have a fluid identity, and we all know that that is one of the biggest things that people get jealous of, because if you think of people who have inferiority complexes, their inferiority complex comes from not having a fluid identity. They feel trapped in their identity. They feel trapped in their own blackness, or trapped in their own skin tone, or trapped with their hair texture, their facial features, whatever it is. It's almost like some people, they view their heritage as a trap. But I've noticed that with Creoles, you have a similar mindset to the rest of us exoticals, which is that you admit that you have a fluid identity, and you admit that you have ambiguity. And by the way, for all the people who try to say, oh, well, Creoles are just black. Well, of course they want Creoles to be just black, because as a Creole, you're meeting the black beauty standard. Anytime somebody says about someone mixed, oh, well, you're just black anyway. Oh, well, she just looks black. Oh, well, she's just black passing. Well, of course they're saying that. It's because you're pretty. They want to be associated with your beauty. They want you to be a part of their group because you're pretty. Without you, they don't have a beauty standard. So that's why you see a lot of unambiguous people riding the coattails of Creole people's beauty. A lot of times they'll ride the coattails of women like Beyonce, of course. They got mad when Beyonce made that song a while back about being Creole. They don't want Beyonce to claim Creole. They want her to only claim blackness because they want to ride the coattails of her status, of her beauty. So I think that's the case with a lot of Creole people as well. But I think one of the benefits, though, of being a Creole woman with like a Creole mother or Creole father, if you come from generations of Creoles, I think one of the benefits is that your family members can relate to the type of jealousy that you have experienced. By the way, this is an advantage, I would say, of being multi-generationally mixed. If you're multi-generationally mixed and you have like parents that have your exact same phenotype, so not like one parent of one race and one parent of another race, but maybe like you're mixed, your mother's mixed, your grandmother's also mixed, your great grandmother was mixed. I think that the advantage of that is that you guys share a similar experience. I think that you guys would share similar stories of like women being jealous and stuff, and your parents can actually warn you when you're a child. Like for some of us who come from generations of pretty privileged women, our mothers actually warned us about jealous women when we were children. And I think a lot of people, they assume that that's colorism. They're like, oh, well, anytime a mother tells her child that girls are jealous of her, she's being colorist. No, that's not being colorist. That's called being smart. You're teaching your daughter to stay away from monitoring spirits. You're teaching your daughter to stay away from little girls who are jealous of her. But I notice a lot of people, they try to make that talking point against Creoles. They try to say that Creole women tell their daughters that people are jealous of them. And it's like, okay, if she does tell her daughters that, that's actually good. She is setting her daughter up for success. She actually cares about the well-being of her daughter. She cares about the social life of her daughter. And by the way, in terms of jealousy over the Creole phenotype, um, there is kind of a stereotype that a lot of Creoles have kind of lighter eyes or maybe the sandy hair color. I know that's not the case for all Creoles, but there are some people who believe that second generation mixed people tend to have a lot more of those features, like the lighter colored eyes and stuff. So I think there's that as well. You know, this whole mindset of, oh, I want to have a pretty baby, or look how pretty our babies are going to be. And then they try to accuse Creoles of being inbreds. Like they try to accuse people of sleeping with their brothers and cousins. So what they're doing is they're trying to use the dark side of Creole history against you as a Creole. But if you were to do that about unambiguous black people, if you were to say that their parent was a part of the crack epidemic, or if you were to say that their mom was a cheap prostitute on the streets, or that their mom lived on Section 8 their whole lives, then they would call you racist. So do you see how they're hypocritical? Because it's okay to use the dark side of your history against you, but then it's not okay for you to use the dark side of black history against them. Another component of the Creole ancestry that people can become jealous of is your access to several different languages. So I don't know what kind of Creole you are if you're watching this, but I know that a lot of people, they associate Creoles with being mixed with, it could be Spanish, it could be French, you could have some indigenous ancestry. So if you were to go and learn the languages associated with that ancestry, you already have closer proximity to that. And I've noticed that some people, they try to talk shit about Creoles and they'll be like, oh, well, what's the point of you learning French? You're not from France. Because you know how some Creoles, they have like French in their bloodline. And it's like, well, it's actually in her bloodline. How much French percentage do you have in your bloodline, Keisha? Since you're so concerned about what Creoles are doing. And I've also noticed that people will say that Creoles are this buffer class. Okay, well, if somebody is a part of a buffer class, I'd rather be the buffer class than the bottom class if I had the choice. You know, so it's like, since you want to bring up hierarchies, since you're so obsessed with putting everyone on a hierarchy, you're literally admitting that you put Creoles above yourself. So that sounds like a jealous talking point to me. And by the way, one of the talking points that I've heard from some Creoles is that they grew up around monoracial black people. So they feel like they are trapped within just the monoracial black culture. That's actually false. Your DNA is already a doorway into another culture. You were already born with ancestry from these other places. So there is no right or wrong way to be mixed. There's no right or wrong way to be multicultural. So just because you didn't grow up learning about your heritage, that doesn't mean that you can't learn about that as an adult. Saying that you have to grow up with a certain culture, it's actually ignorant, because what about the mixed people whose parent passes away? Are you telling me that they're no longer mixed because their parent is deceased? What about the mixed people who are adopted? Maybe they're only adopted, by a white family. Are you saying that they're no longer mixed with black because their adopted family is white? No. So you can always go back and learn about your own history. You can always claim that ancestry if you want to. And by the way, I've actually met a lot of Creole people in real life where they don't necessarily talk about their Creole ancestry in person, but if you go on their social media, their name will be like Creole Princess or light skinned man or something. Like, I've even seen some men do this actually. And for whatever reason, it's only Creole men that I've seen do this, but they will actually put that in their social media handle. So that's a good way that you can kind of promote your ancestry without having to talk about it. And a lot of mixed people do that. And for all the people who are going to try to comment and say, oh, well, Creoles, they classified themselves as black in the 1920s. Okay, so just like how they classified themselves as black, they can now unclassify themselves as just black if they choose. So you're literally admitting that you can pick and choose whether or not you want to be classified as black. Okay, so then you're mixed. You're multicultural then. Also, why are people trying to use these rules from the 1920s against Creoles in particular? Like I said, I'm telling you, it's because they want to ride the coattails of your beauty and your status. That's why they want to try to force Creoles into unambiguous blackness. It's so they can go and announce to white people, see, look at all of us beautiful black people, and then they show pictures of women like Beyonce. Beyonce is clearly mixed race. The average unambiguous black person does not have sandy blonde hair and light colored eyes. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.